Hello and welcome to Real Hi-Fi Help. Well, let's take a look at Avalon. We can't really push that off aside anymore. um, I have a lot of mixed feelings about Avalon. Mostly just don't have a lot of good stuff to say about it. I think it's a lower budget to mid-sounding brand. A lot of people would want to place it in the higher end. I really don't think that's appropriate, but everybody has their own opinions. But this is clearly an Aquatone ceramic driver type of sound, and they have these very stiff sounding colorless what do you call it, driver units. It's a very certain type of sound that you either really like or really hate. It does some really, really interesting stuff to the sound. It really makes it crisp and clear, separated, and to some degree very interesting, and you get a certain type of depth that is very rare. And it can seem very interesting, sexy, and seducing, but for me, I hear also the other stuff, the dryness, the edge, the vulgarity of Wilson audio. I'm not so crazy about Avalon, even though some of the things that they do are very, very impressive. It's kind of a mixed bag feeling with Avalon. It's just like I wrote here, just a great example of pretend hi-fi, where you're just doing a lot of stuff that's impressive, a lot of information, but it just doesn't quite come together, and you get this like PA sound effect where it's like dum 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 bada bing bam, voice air separation, detail, half deep, and then for me it just makes me uneasy because that human quality of having an organic sound that's truly deep and connected, and you feel it is really there, not just to impress you. I just don't quite feel that from Avalon. And I have to say that Martin Design, they take Aquatone ceramic drivers and just take it to a whole other level, where it's just a lot more convincing. Just a lot more convincing. It's almost as if the materials that they've used and the tuning in method, and also looking at the cabinets, they look a lot better, in my opinion. And I feel that the value that you get from Martin Design is just generally a lot better. But I would also have to say that Martin Design in the lowest end are pretty crap, where I would in theory go with an Avalon speaker from the mid to the top models instead, even though the prices are ridiculous with Avalon. Also, Martin Design is also pretty ridiculous in price, but it's just frustrating thinking back on all the Avalon systems that I've heard, because so much of it was just so good with individual pieces of information, but it's so difficult to mess around with and pair gear with it, and you're testing this cable and that, and it really is difficult to have a base of good sound and then just slowly build that up when you have Avalon, because you're just getting so much information going in all kinds of direction. And yeah, maybe it's just me, but and this is also consideration you have to take when you're buying a speaker with ceramic drivers like Aquatone. It has a very distinct separated type of sound, where you hear a lot of the spacing between the treble, the mid-range, and the bass, and you might not want to hear that. A lot of people like that, and a lot of people don't. It's a bit like the thing that keeps Macintosh audio, that creates their distinct sound. Either you really love it or you hate it. And it's just what I feel is like the integration between the treble, mid-range, and bass. It just feels not fully tuned in and musical and coming together and human-like. It's just separate detail freak show information for me. And if it had a bit more, life, vibrancy, natural color, I think it would appeal a lot more to me. And I also feel that at the same time, I also have to say that I would actually like to own a set of Avalon speakers if you were to go for the most expensive ones, and I could have them for like a tenth of the price. Then I actually really might consider them. But it's the fact that I just find them so ridiculously priced that I just can't take the brand seriously. I mean, it's almost a bigger sin than Wilson Audio and their speaker prices, just ridiculous prices. And that is why I can't really recommend the brand. Really weird, huh? Really weird. And, I think, I can see this guy has used some Bob Carver monoblocks on these Avalon. I would suspect that if you ever had to have the most compatible, best control type of forgiving sound for the Avalons, I would guess that some kind of a Bob Carver amplification with perhaps an AudioNote M2 or M3 preamplifier would perhaps be the best thing that you could do to give Avalon the most balanced and controlled sound that integrates as almost as well as is possible. But that's just my opinion. You might not think that that's a good combination for you, but yeah, I also have to say that I listen to Gouda, who also uses ceramic drivers, and I have to say Avalon does a hell of a lot better job than Gouda. Gouda is probably one of the worst ceramic driver speaker companies I've ever heard. The ceramic drivers that they use are, I think, pretty similar to Avalon and Martin Design, but it just sounds horrible. And I think that, we have to give Avalon credit for that, because there are some few companies like Gouda that just make horrible ceramic driver sound. And I feel that Avalon are a hell of a lot better than that. And, I'm a bit back and forward with Avalon, because I really enjoyed listening to it back in the very start of my hi-fi journey. And if you had asked me like 10, 15 years ago about Avalon, I would actually have considered it pretty decent, good, interesting sound that I would like to own. But time has changed. I just listen to gear that's a hell of a lot better. And it just tires me listening to Avalon, because I know that there's some speakers out there that just make everything a lot more pleasant, human, integrated, and I'd rather go for that experience. This is sort of the freak hi-fi show type of sound that to some degree really still impresses me, but I just can't really relax and listen to music for a long period of time, because it's just very weird in sound, almost as if it's out of phase and not fully tuned in and just coherent. I think the main word is just coherent. It's just lacking that glue that makes everything come together and you fully understanding your equipment. I just feel that it just confused when I'm listening to Avalon. Just so much good with quite a bit of bad in it, and yeah, that's all I have to say. And if you can like and subscribe, that would help me a lot. Have a nice day.